Hello and welcome to EduCurious. Today's guest is Mr. Shannon Benton. He is a football coach, an educator, a community leader, and an area director of West Central Florida for FCA. I'm so delighted to have Mr. Benton on the show. So good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I want to get started with asking you a little bit about your current role with FCA and within the school system.
I serve as an area director for South Polk, Highlands, and Hardy County. And basically, we serve elementary, middle school, high school, and those three colleges within that footprint.
And what do you do within those schools when you're going down? Are you meeting with students, facilitating FCA gatherings? I've seen you at some of the charter schools, and I just want to know more about like what that looks like.
So FCA has been around since 1954. We're currently in over 100 countries. Our primary role from a vision standpoint is to see every coach and athlete come into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ and his church. The uniqueness there is we take sport, probably the biggest phenomenon in our world in terms of what people do, what people watch, what people love, and we use that platform to bring Jesus Christ to his rightful place. Our strategy is simple. We use what we call an ether strategy. We try to engage first and foremost coaches where they are. We believe that coaches are the influencers in the lives of athletes. We believe athletes are the influencers on their campuses. So we just simply believe that if we can help influence coach while he's influencing those athletes, then it just simply makes better culture inside of our specifically public schools, but not specific to public schools, of course. And obviously, when athletes understand the influence that they have, then we can take all of those things combined and hopefully prepare them for their future in business and life.
Talk about some of the things that you've seen your athletes that you've been able to serve grow and become leaders within your community, some of those success stories.
I'm a coach myself, so I serve an organization that serves coaches, and I'm a coach. For me, I think one of the stories that's near and dear to my heart is a recent story. We had our first FCA family camp, and this family camp is a camp where coaches they bring their families to a space with other families throughout Region 14. We have this family camp, and we invite a coach and his spouse and their three kids. He works at Frostproof. He moved here from Lyons, Georgia, some 3 years ago, and they've just slowly been trying to get planted into a church. And so we very intentional time spent at this camp, time in God's word, time in worship, time with family, including competition time, huddle time, so forth, so on. After camp's over, my wife gets a message from his wife, and she says, "Thank you guys so much for inviting us to the family camp." She said, basically, man, we realize we need to get back in church, which is our goal. The simplicity of our goal is for coaches and their spouse and families to be discipled, to be in a position of knowing Christ, of living for him. For her to make a connection with camp to say, man, we want to get our family back in church. Can you send us the information to your church? So that was really exciting for us. But in terms of students, there's all kind of success stories. One that rings a bell is a student by the name of Shelby Garrett. Shelby was another Frostproof softball player. Charlie Warren, Coach Warren was a FCA teacher sponsor at Frostproof some 10 years ago. And he began to mold and shape a group of students, teaching them how to lead, teaching them how to be bold in front of their peers. Long story short, Shelby started coming to church. Her family started coming to church. And now Shelby just graduated from college, and she's looking to do mission work. And so it's just awesome to see when the Lord uses something from middle school, and here she is now 22 years old, and she's looking to serve her community up in Birmingham or somewhere in Alabama. So
How did FCA impact your life? When did you get introduced to this program and how did you get excited about it?
when I was in high school, FCA was introduced to me by the same guy, Charlie Warren. Charlie Warren was in my position that I currently serve in. He served in this position, and it wasn't a lot of FCA guys around then, but Charlie would kind of hit schools periodically. He'd bring watermelons or Gatorades, and he talked to the team. And we had a teacher sponsor, Al and Lynn Wyndham. Kyle was a math teacher, and Miss Wyndham was our guidance counselor, and they were in charge of FCA in our campus. So I was influenced by FCA by a coach early in life. That would have been 11th, 12th grade. And I remember Charlie giving me my first FCA Bible back in 1999. Just fun memories of really not necessarily living for Christ during those days, but certainly um, intrigued by a coach that would look you in the eyes, tell you about Jesus, and just have an expectation for you as a young man at 16, 17 years old.
You do a really wonderful job with the program and the students. I want to hear a little bit about your athletic background and your impact with that and community and the area of Frostproof.
So I grew up in Babson Park. My parents still lived there. Back in those days, the Babson Park kids either went to Lake Wales or they went to Frostproof. My mom was a Frostproof girl, so my siblings and I ended up in Frostproof. And I think from an early age, we just love sport. My mom was a sports girl. We grew up going to football games and basketball games, and had a lot of cousins that played sports. And of course, in the 80s and 90s, Frostproof was in our mind, really in a lot of people's mind, was a historic program. 4 state championships appearances in the 90s. I grew up just wanting to be on the field, play football and baseball, tried to play basketball, wasn't very good at that, ran track. I was on a weightlifting team. So we had a lot of great players around us during those years, and we were fortunate to win a state championship in football, a state championship in weightlifting, and I went on to play at the University of Tennessee. And, that was a very cool experience, being able to play in front of 108,000 people, being on a full scholarship, people seeing your talent and recognizing it. Transferred to Brigham Young University, and lived in Utah for 2 years, and really cherished that time, because I think the Lord was beginning to stir something in me, because I was living a bit wild in those days, and I think the Lord used some incidents at BYU to kind of turn my heart back to Him. Ended up graduating. So my story is kind of crazy. 4 universities in 5 years, graduated in 5 years. So it's kind of a miracle that I walked across the stage with a degree. Changed my major 4 times. The Lord really used sport at first as a player, and then as a coach to really kind of help me understand some of the purposes He has me here. I'm very grateful for coaches in my life. Really, Coach Marsh was one. He's currently the head football coach at Frostproof, but I can remember him calling me my senior year of college, asking me, "Hey man, what are you gonna do? You're going to graduate. What are you gonna do?" And he said, "Have you ever thought about coaching?" And I said, "Coaching? They pay you to do that?" He said, "No, they pay you to teach." I came back to Florida, ended up teaching at Osceola High School, taught for almost 15 years. And then the Lord kind of transitioned my wife and I into full-time ministry here a few years ago.
So, do you see with all of this immersion in athletic endeavors and the classroom, a strong correlation between a kid getting plugged into some sort of athletic capacity and their student success? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, to me, they go hand in hand because of the influence that athletes have when we're intentional about using athletics as a conduit to not just educating our students, but how we educate our students. The reality is everyone isn't going to college, but everyone's going to work, at least hopefully. What sport does, or athletics, what it does is it teaches you character when it's done right. It teaches you responsibility and accountability. All of those things that's going to make you a good daddy, that's going to make you a good husband. All of those things are taught in athletics. When they coincide with academics, now that student that could be an issue, that student's a little more alert in first period instead of sleep at the house, because he knows there's an expectation that coach has. The academic flow is going to be better, and I think that's true for the students that don't play sports, those students that are involved in extracurriculars, all those things that happen during the school day. Those things draw kids to want to learn, and it motivates them even in the classes that they may not really love. But because they have a love for something outside of math, science, social studies, reading, then I think the educational experience just is better. So I am an advocate of sport or extracurricular in general. running parallel with academics. I think the culture of the school really is built when people see it that way, and when they don't, I think oftentimes there's issues that arise that could have otherwise been dealt with if they seen it differently.
So you're really involved in your community. Just this morning when we talked, you were trying to help somebody who had lost a loved one. You were getting food ready to feed the family. Talk about the importance of connecting with community in the educational world.
In FCA, we have four core values: integrity, teamwork, serving, and excellence. At the core of all of those is a heart to serve. And I think when for all of us, Jesus said it best. I didn't come to this world to be served, but I came to serve. That's Christ Himself saying, I came to serve. I think when our nature isn't to serve, at least mine isn't. I'm selfish to the core, but I think we can practice, we can learn habits of helping others, of serving others in our community and the surrounding communities. I'm not perfect at it by no means, but man, I'm really striving to be a person that says, listen, if there's a need and I can help, then I want to be a part of it. I mean, I certainly want to be a part of the solutions that are needed in our communities.
Yes, and something I'm really impressed about with Frostproof and seeing it, how they support their athletes. For example, churches will step up and they will say, "Oh, you have a game later on. Let me make sure you get a good meal before you load that bus." Different aspects like that. What are some other ways that you would like to see your community help support these athletes or students or young people in a way that would benefit the whole big picture?
We live in a culture where, families are broken down, and there are extreme needs in households. I mean, I think for us that have been blessed with good upbringings and God's grace upon us to have intact families, I think it's important for us to stand in the gaps as much as we can, because sometimes you take students home or you hear some of their stories, and I mean, you're taken back by the situations that they're in. Those are opportunities for us to open the door of our home. Of course, your husband is one of the best at that. And I think as we open the doors of our home, kids get to see. They get to see, number one, they get to see an intact family, not a perfect family, but an intact family. They get to see. They get to see a different environment than what they may be accustomed to. But I think more than that, especially as a believer, we're always trying to point people to Jesus, because ultimately there's an eternity that we all have been created for. Mark 8:36 or 37, it says, "What does it profit a man to gain the world and to lose his soul?" The meat of that verse is saying, really, we can get all these things right on earth, but if we don't know Christ, then in eternity, we're going to have a problem. Ultimately, that's my goal in our community, specifically in the way we try to live. We try to point people toward Christ because He can save them from their sins. He can provide a better life for them. That better life, not meaning, materialistic or monetary, but simply there's joy and peace that comes with knowing Him. And I think that there's something inside of us that kind of rises up and says, listen, if I know Jesus, if I know I was created in His image, then I have purpose in this life, and that purpose is more than just helping people. It's more than just doing the things that I know are right, but it's pointing people back to Him. My heart is, as I grow in compassion for people, that compassion grows because I know the compassion that Christ has had on me, because I deserve nothing, but yet He's given me everything.
So I want to switch gears just a little bit and talk
Okay.
about some of the challenges that you faced in your career with bringing students to Christ and FCA and athletics. What are some of those big challenges that were actually, in retrospect, really big moments of growth and development for you as a leader, as a person, as a man?
Anytime you do ministry as a career, the thoughts of, man, am I worthy for this? Am I bold enough? Do I have a past? Can you really go and talk about Christ all day to people, knowing who you really are on the inside? I think those are all tricks of the enemy for sure. That's the same lie that Satan told Adam and Eve in the garden, right? That you can be you can be and do apart from apart from who Christ or God created you to be, and a lot of challenges in that regard. I fundraise for a living. There's challenges there as well, but there's also opportunity for growth, right? Your faith to grow. I really try to embrace those moments of, I'm an athlete. Adversity is good, especially when you're not standing alone. I go to Avon Park Lakes Baptist Church. We have a great group of men that surround us. Our organization in itself, we have great leaders in our organizations, even in this community of Frostproof. My neighbor is a pastor. I've got buddies that I just try to be real and vulnerable with. Jeremy Bird, he's one of my dudes, man, and I can be real with people in those moments, and you don't feel alone. And so, but certainly, that's life. Jesus said, "In this life, you'll have trouble," but he says, "Fear not, I've overcome the world." And so, the more we trust in Him, or better put, I think circumstances help us learn to lean and depend on Him more, and in those character development moments, and those heart development moments, we get to learn more about who we are as well. I try to embrace them. I don't always do that well, but I try to embrace those moments for sure.
Have there been any particularly just devastating moments where once you got through it, you're like, oh my gosh, I learned so much. I'm grateful to be on the other side of it, but like anything that stands out in particular?
So I was divorced early, like 26, just devastating. And when you got kids in the middle of that, it rocks your world, especially when you point at self and say, yeah, you're the reason. It's interesting how the Lord uses those those valleys in life. And when you're in the valley, all you can do is look up. It's interesting that God in his grace extends. That's what he does. He embraces us in our lowest moments. Scripture says when we're weak, he is made strong. When you get to the other side of that and you look back, you're reminded of how good he is, and you're reminded of how much you need him. You try to live life that way. I've had some dark moments in life, but I wouldn't change them, because I think those, I would do them differently. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't change them because I think they've helped shape me into the man the Lord has me today. And His grace is sufficient. God's grace is sufficient, meaning grace that we have through a relationship with Christ. Man, we get to see life just from a different lens. We don't, though our past might be whatever it is, dark, call it whatever you want, the light of Christ shines before us. That's what we're walking toward. We're not looking back at that. We're reminded of those things. Life has a way of reminding us. But as we look at Christ, the light that shines before us, we're reminded of his goodness and his grace. And those are the things that keep us going. So,
What are some of the things that you consider to be really great accomplishments that you've had in your life?
I think one of my greatest accomplishments, honest to goodness, was making a decision to come into education. I had no thought of teaching. My first teaching job was an adaptive PE job. Man, it was the most humbling, the most, I don't know, it felt like God's reward dropped on me every day. I kid you not, Amber. I would walk in the cafeteria in the mornings, and those kids would stand up and clap when I came in. There's something about education that just melts your heart. And I think that was one of the greatest accomplishments, to go, because I had to go back to school. I had a degree in criminology, and I had to go back to Valencia. I was on a temporary certification, having to go to Valencia to take more classes. But man, it was worth it, because being in an environment with students, and you're learning them, they're learning you, and you're able to impress upon them, especially for a guy like me. Like, there's some things you don't want to do in life, or being able to talk students through those things. And then as a coach, man, I still cherish that. I don't teach anymore, but I still coach. I'm still involved in little league sports. I just really, really, really love being around kids. I just do, because I mean, they're our future, yes, but more than that, man, they belong to Jesus, and we want them to know him. I mean, that's the mission of FCA. And because of the influence that coach has, we get to go in and be an impact for students to understand there's a better way to live, there's a better way to be. And we can teach those little small things through sport. And so,
So, if you met a person getting ready to go into college, thinking about a career in education, what advice do you have for them?
I would beg them to coach. A career in education, I believe there's more depth. I think when you coach, when you're involved with more than the classroom, when you're involved with students outside of the classroom, I think there's just something different about that. The academic element is made for the teacher, and some students thrive in it. But the sports field is made for the student. The band room is made for the student because that's where passion, the heart and the passion of our students often is outside of the classroom. When you can come to their domain and enjoy them, I think it gives you a greater appreciation for the moments you get to teach them those core subjects. I would beg them to coach. We've got to have more men in the classroom. So if it's a male, I'm like, dude, we got to have you. We got to have you. Our boys need to see more men in the classroom. But man, how awesome would it be if the ratios and teaching were the same as the students in the seats? I think when you can see examples of what good real men look like from pre-K kindergarten, it gives a different perspective for a 17, 18-year-old getting ready to go to college, especially considering that many of them don't see it at home. So males, get your butt in the education class majors and whatnot. But there are so many teachers. I'll mention Kyle Wyndham. When I look back and the intentionality that they had, I get choked up thinking about it. The intentionality that they had outside the classroom, nothing substitutes that. That's why you go into education, simply put.
So, say I'm curious about getting involved in FCA within my school or my district. How do I get started with that as a parent, let's say? And then we can talk about as a district or
Yeah, so FCA is a student-led ministry, and so parents, man, they're pivotal to what we do. We got an incident at a school right now that's kind of stiff arming FCA, and it's a student that's driving the train right now. She's knocking on the door of the principal. We got another couple of students, their parents are contacting us about FCA camp this summer, and we're asking them, hey, you go to this school where there's been a little bit of turbulence. Can you help us? Because by law, the Freedom Act law, but the law covers secondary education. It's for student led clubs, FCA and Youth for Christ, other Christian organizations that have clubs. We can be in the schools. And so we need parents to help us knock on doors, the doors that are closed. From a student standpoint, if a student wants FCA on their campus, then legally speaking, they have to let them. Now we help them formulate the club and make sure it's done right and legally. And then the same for teachers. We need teacher sponsors. The more teacher sponsors we have on a campus, the easier it flows. So many great sponsors in this area: the Lindsay Woods, the Jeremy Birds, the Jen Simpsons, and Coach A, who, man, hate to see her leave. Becca Fleming, Sean McCraw. I could go on and on of people right here in Frostproof Lake Wells, Avon Park, people that Sherry Whidden down at Avon Park that say, no, we want FCA here. We want our students to hear about Christ during the school day. Yes, prayer is still in school because of ministries like FCA and Youth for Christ and so many others. There's so much more we can do, but FCA has been strategically placed in the school system, and we're going to keep rolling as long as they let us.
what's your vision look like for the next 5 years with growing FCA within this district?
You can see literally, I can see houses being built. So our community is growing rapidly between Sebring and Winter Haven. From an FCA standpoint, we're trying to grow our staffs. Jeremy Bird is currently raising support for full-time ministry here locally. He'll help us serve in that footprint from Winter Haven through Lake Wells into Highlands County. We're looking to, in the next 3 to 5 years, we got to have 2 or 3 more full-time staff people, because I'm running along with several others. Of course, Jeff Sykes is a part of our ministry now, which that guy humbles me. But I think the big vision, really, we'd like to have active, ongoing, sustainable ministry in every public school in this South Polk and Heartland area, which is Highlands and Hardy County for us. So we're in some 43, 44 schools in some capacity now. But that's only about half of the schools we have today, and there are schools being built as we speak. So from elementary to middle school to high school, even to college ministry, the more we can build a home team, a home team of donors, a home team of volunteers. I mean, this ministry is built on the volunteer. We can't do sustainable ministry without Lindsay Wood at Bach, without Jen at Bach North. We can't do sustainable ministry without those people. The partnerships that we have with the churches. I keep saying Jen, and I keep thinking about Matt. Matt beats the streets more than anybody I know, along with so many other people that say, no, I want to be a part of what's going on in my kids' school. And FCA is just another way to be a part of it. Big vision for sure, but we want to be in every school in some capacity. We like 5 points of ministry, a coach's huddle, a campus huddle, and character coaches, which is the legal way of saying a chaplain. Character coaches on every team, because coaches, the role of a coach is more than just coach. Now coach is daddy, coach is psychiatrist, coach is, I mean, you name it, coach got to wear that hat. With FCA, what we try to do is come alongside coach. That way we can help him in building the character on his team so that the culture of the team can help permeate the hallways of the school. And we're seeing it happen all around us. We're grateful for the opportunities we get to serve in that capacity.
What are some of the other ways that FCA is serving the students and the schools, like the tangible side of it?
Our ministry, we try to have a simple approach. For instance, yesterday we had some watermelons left over from camp this weekend. So we were at Lake Region High School cutting watermelons and seeing how we could serve coach. So there are simple aspects to our ministry, but really we we have 9 pillars of ministry. I mean, FCA in whole is just huge, from our campus ministry, which is what mostly we've talked about. That's probably the meat of what we do, because everything starts on the campus, and then it moves to the field or the court or the, whatever. But you have what we call all abilities ministry, right? This all ability. You got schools like Victory Ridge right there in Lake Wells, where we get to ask the question as FCA: who are the athletes? Who are the athletes? Well, are those students at Victory Ridge? Are there athletes there? Absolutely, they are. We get to run, and as we build it out, that 5-10 year plan of people, of hiring ministers for the mission of FCA, that has a heart for all abilities ministry. Now we can build out through Special Olympics and through all those other avenues of ministry. We want to make it available for every student, and every coach. We have what we call outdoor ministry. Are they athletes? Middle school archery is probably one of the fastest growing sports in the nation. Are they athletes? Absolutely they are. Well, how can we minister in that lane? So outdoor ministry is huge, from rodeo ministry to Jimmy Hurst taking a group of kids on a hog hunt. I mean, the vision is so broad. We can look at that and say, man, what's unique to this area, this Polk County, this Highlands Hardy rural area? And those things are fitting for us. What about travel and club? I mean, club and league sports are probably the biggest aspect of sport in our world. A lot of people aren't going to church on Sunday morning anymore. They're in a gym or they're at a ball field. So how can we bring Christ to where they are? That's what we get to do. We have these 9 pillars of ministry, and the heartbeat of our ministry is coach. All right. That's why Jeff Sykes being a part of what we do is so important. Here's what Billy Graham said. The famous evangelist Billy Graham says, a coach will impact more people in a year than most do in a lifetime. Right? That's why that person going into education needs to coach, because the more time you spend with a kid, the more the right people spend time with kids, the better off we're going to be in our communities. We have big visions, and we're just trusting the Lord step by step to help us grow those things out.
What do you feel like our biggest need in this Polk Highlands Hardy County area is right now?
I think educationally, we just if our heart is simply about what's best for our students, right? Forget all of those, we can We can talk about the red tape over here and the blue tape over there and, whatever. Is it right for our kids? I mean, those are the conversations I have with people from county to county. Is it right for our kids? And if there's a question, if it is, then it probably ain't. To me, that's the biggest need. We need to make sure that the decisions that we're making, whether they're from the top, from a district standpoint, whether they're locally inside of schools, if it ain't right for our kids, then why are we doing it? When you look at the Polk County or the charter and you look at the vacancy in jobs, there's a lot of job openings. We got to be intentional about asking questions, the hard questions about what's right for our kids and making decisions based on that. That's my humble opinion.
So, is there a way that FCA and athletics can help facilitate those questions or help generate more passionate educators within this area? We have some phenomenal universities that have degrees in education. What do you see that we need to focus on right now to plan and prepare for these educators in the next 5 years?
I remember the middle school classroom. I remember the elementary classroom. I can sing the Babson Park Nat song right now, word for word, because you believed it. You believed it because you believe who was telling you those things. When we're hiring the right people, when we're intentional about hiring the right people, posting jobs nationally. I love some of the things that the county's doing with, I remember a couple years back, Dan Talbot and Coach Wyndham would go up to Michigan or Ohio looking for teachers. I love that because it opens up the parameters of the type of people we can bring here. There's a guy by the name of Roger Orwick. He was my biology teacher. Man, love this guy. And he was, I remember me, him, and Coach P, we flew up. I was going on a visit to Ohio State, and we flew up to Ohio, the three of us together, and we stayed with his daughter and son. They were both in medical programs at Ohio State. I mean, that guy he could have put me in a hotel, but he wanted me to see some of those things. And you get the when teachers are intentional about that, I think our students, their eyes are open to the possibilities of not just what they can be, but who they can be. I think that's what education and sport does. And education and extracurricular, I don't like to just lean on sport because I beat the drums in the sixth grade. So I understand the passion of band. I just think making the right decision for our kids, specifically with the teachers we hire, when they believe in their teacher, I think a lot more kids will be driven back to want to be a part of education later in life. We got to pay people better, right? We can talk about all those things, no question. Polk County, my goodness. I mean, I was a coach in Polk County, and you got surrounding counties making more money. I mean, I don't understand how all that works. It'd be great if we came to the table, the collective bargaining table, and again, making decisions that are right for our people. That's how you keep people. I get it. I know budgets and all of that is what it is, but I think when you pay people right, you show them their value and worth, and that way, that's gonna draw some better people for sure. But yeah, let's do what's right by our kids.
What advice would you have to a younger person or early adult in getting into coaching? What do you have to do to be a good coach? Do you need to be like that pro football star to coach football, or do you have to just love kids and show up? Like, what's your take on that?
If you love kids and you have a passion, not necessarily for the sport, a passion for the sport would be nice, but if you have a passion to help students grow and becoming who God created them to be, then that's why you coach. Because I'm not coaching for that game on Friday. I'm coaching for 10 years from now. And we say it often. We actually care what kind of daddy and husband you're going to be because you will be one day. And so being intentional about those things. And I think most of your good classroom teachers, they have the heart of a coach. I mean, that's just the reality. I think as we hire good teachers, and in the old day, you almost were expected to coach. But I think for me, especially when I was a head coach, man, you could scan a room and know who you needed to go ask to come help you coach a team because there's just something about a person. There's something about a man or woman that would say, no, I love kids and I want to see them be successful. And that's what coaching allows because the classroom is a little more structured. There's specific goals, but I think if I'm in the classroom and I'm on the field, man, those two things, man, they behave. I think students act differently when that happens. I think they understand you more when they see you and wearing different hats.
Some of the teachers might be leery of coaching because it takes extra time. You don't really make a lot of money in addition.
Yeah.
And they might be worried about like grading papers or figuring out classroom management. But when you put in that effort as a coach, then you start seeing the rewards of the effort within your classroom. And it ends up being a benefit in so many ways. Are there any closing thoughts or anything you want to add or say, hey, if you're thinking about getting involved in FCA?
Yeah, and I don't do very well with social media, but we do have a website, it's heartlandfca.org. Please visit us there. If I've got a closing thought, I'm a minister of the gospel at heart. If you don't know Jesus, you're missing it. You're missing out. You're gonna miss out on eternity for sure. But man, the life that we get to live now, Galatians 2:20 says, "I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but it's Christ that lives in me. The life I live now, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and who gave himself for me." And if you don't know Christ, I think teaching and education and all of those things, man, when I got a relationship with Jesus, when I put my shoes on in the morning, I'm on mission. The purpose driven life that I'm going to live. It ain't for myself. It ain't really for nobody around me. Colossians 3:23 says, everything I do it with all of my heart, as if I'm doing it for the Lord and not for man. And so, man, I can't say it enough. If you don't know him, get to know him. If you don't know him as your Lord and Savior, then you're gonna miss out on eternity, and we want to see you there. So thank you for having me. Love talking about Christ. I love talking about our community, and we want to see it continue to grow for the good. And we want to be a part of that growth, more importantly. So thank you, Amber.
Thank you, Shannon Benton, for everything you do with our kids, the community, with your lifelong work of being a servant leader in Polk County, Highlands County, Hardy County. You are an integral part. And I know many children are going to remember you their entire lives. And that's what it's all about, is that higher purpose, that higher calling. So thank you for joining us today on EduCurious. And whether you're a teacher, a parent, or just EduCurious, join the community as we explore various educational topics and learn from each other. We'll see you next time.